For a long while, I have been sitting with this notebook before me, unable to make up my mind to write. So much is all within me mediocre, worthless, insipid, hopelessly commonplace. Not a single thought in my head, not a single feeling in my heart, a complete indifference to everything, and an insurmountable dullness. How can such a state be of any use? I am a veritable zero in the world. But all this is not at all important. And provided thy work is accomplished, thy manifestation takes place, and the earth becomes more and more thy harmonious and fruitful kingdom, it matters little whether I accomplish this work or not. And as it is certain that it will be done, I should have no reason to worry, even if I felt like it. From the depths to the outermost surface, all this, my being, is only a handful of dust. It is but natural that it should be scattered on the winds and leave no trace behind. If I really reflect on these wonderful words, again during our spiritual journey, it happens that we go through certain phases, we go through in absolute ecstasy, in absolute union with the goal that we have before us. But there are certain stages as we live in the life of samsara. It seems like the heart has dried up and nothing really stirs us within. And this is a dry phase. I'm talking about myself. So every word is so meaningful, so wonderful actually. And again, it shows that the kind of the vanity, the ego, and that we really keep within us is nothing actually when we go through these wonderful words. And actually, what we are just 5 elements. So what kind of ego? There are crores, hundreds of crores of beings in the world. So who am I actually? I am just a zero, veritable zero. So Mother says that as long as your work is accomplished, your manifestation takes place. As long as earth becomes more and more harmonious, and your kingdom is established, it matters little whether I become part of it or not. I am just a zero. So I don't have to worry even if I feel like it, because it's just a phase actually. Because I know in my being, from depths to the outermost surface, I am just a handful of dust. This is my reflection.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rashmiji. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Yeah, Jishnuji, you want to go next? Yes.
So, in line with what Rashmiji said, because I also, when I read, I felt that 2 things. One is the frankness with which she wrote these lines, that we all go through these periods of dullness, period of indifference, as if nothing registers. And she has aptly put a complete indifference to everything, and an insurmountable dullness. That is, nothing is registering. There is no aspiration, dullness. And then she is also extending that how can such a state be of any use? And she writes that I am a veritable zero in this world. But all this is not important. And provided thy work is accomplished, thy manifestation takes place, and the earth becomes more and more thy harmonious and fruitful kingdom. It matters little whether I accomplish this work or not. So she, I would say, is extending the frame of reference. She is taking when this personal indifference or dullness, she is extending the frame like to eternity, and she is saying that as long as the divine work is being done, it is immaterial whether any personal preference, personal happiness, personal achievement is being done or not. And I think that is what she is extending in this second last paragraph also, that after all, we are just a handful of dust and it will get scattered. And in long term, no trace of ours will be there, and there will not be any trace of us. So I would say that in this prayer, she is writing about the absoluteness of the divine aim, which is absolute, and how temporary we are in overall scheme of things, that it hardly matters. That's what I felt.
Wonderful.
Yeah, beautiful, Vishnuji. Yes, absolutely. I think it's really strange how from time to time our attention goes to our own little self, wanting fame, name, and acknowledgement and validation. And I think this is really a very powerful prayer for that kind of a fall or a trap that we go to again and again. That in front of the work of the divine, it's nothing. It doesn't matter our existence, our our name or whatever. So let's go over it again, and then please share if there is anything more. I'll just read it out and line by line see if there is anything more that comes up. January 5, 1914. For a long while, I have been sitting with this notebook before me, unable to make up my mind to write. So much is all within me, mediocre, worthless, insipid, hopelessly commonplace. I think this is so humbling. This is, I think, again and again in prayers, Mother just allows this humility to come up, and also for us like an inspiration where we have read a little and we think that I know, and here Mother, Divine Mother is sharing that so much is all within me, mediocre, worthless, insipid, hopelessly commonplace. So Mother is just kind of communicating that what should I write? I'm writing to you and I have nothing really worthwhile to write to you. Not a single thought in my head, not a single feeling in my heart, a complete indifference to everything, and an insurmountable dullness, Mother says. And in this dullness, which she recognizes in the being at this moment, one realizes, oh my God, how can I be of any use if I'm in such a state? How can such a state be of any use? I feel I am a veritable zero in the world. And then she realizes, but all this is not at all important. So the moment our attention goes to our own little self, which will remain little as long as we live, the physical self, the little outer self that we have, it's really amazing that no matter how much we engage in pursuits of higher, there is something in us, since we are growing from the darkness to light and inconscience to the planes of superconscience. I think it's really amazing to see that this littleness, as if it's not ready to leave us. It's always there. We can always find something or the other or more, in greater or lesser degree, this littleness. But then Mother is there for the divine work. There is nothing that Mother wants to do but the divine work. She's here for that. So she says, but all this is not at all important. My state is not at all important. And provided thy work is accomplished, thy manifestation takes place and the earth becomes more and more thy harmonious and fruitful kingdom, it matters little whether I accomplish this work or not. So again, a beautiful thing, because whenever we are wanting to do the divine work, there is also this ego, like a madness of the ego, which comes forward that, I am doing it. Let me do the divine work. And their mother again, hints at that it does not matter how it is done, whether it is done through some other person or this healer, that therapist, it doesn't matter. As long as your work is done, how do I care? What matters is the divine work should be done. Because many a times, when we travel on this path, there actually does come this element of ego, also the spiritual ego, that we want attention to our own self, that okay, I did that work, I am doing this sadhana, or I helped these many people, and whatever. It's very natural somehow from the space of ego consciousness where we arise. I think it's very natural for it to come up, and what is possible for us is to notice it and to offer it to the mother. But many a times it happens that we follow the dictate of ego consciousness. So here mother just places our attention, focuses our attention on what is more and most important, which is the divine work, which is the constant march towards higher and higher truth and higher planes of consciousness. It doesn't matter how that is done, whether I am involved or not, doesn't matter. And as it is certain that it will be done, I should have no reason to worry, even if I felt like it. So although I felt like, I'm feeling like a zero and how would the work be done? But then since the divine certitude, victory is, certain, how does it matter? I don't need to worry. There is no reason to worry. From the depths to the outermost surface, all this, my being, is only a handful of dust. Again, recognizing our littleness in the vastness of the creation. I think one of the images that we can use, I think many people do that, going away from Earth and then looking at yourself from greater space, from a planet, and then going even further, looking at the whole galaxy and looking at how Earth is just a single point in all of that magnanimity. So we are actually dust and nothing else. It's only a handful of dust, this personality that is there, that may be working as an instrument at the moment. It's nothing but a speck of dust, a handful of dust. What happens after we leave the body? We burn the body, becomes ash, and the ash is only like a handful. It's not much ash that we leave. It is but natural that it should be scattered on the winds and leave no trace behind. I think really very, very powerful, and also very humbling at the same time, that can we again and again bring our attention to greater and absolute and higher, rather than focusing our attention on this littleness, the littleness of the ego, all that it craves for. And I think that really puts things in perspective once again. We may fall into the ditch again and again, but once again, things are put into right perspective, that we are not important. What matters is how the work is done, how that the work is taken forward. There is more harmony, more beauty in lives of people, and more, I think, delight. That's, I think, three pillars of growth of consciousness, beauty, harmony, and delight. And if that is going on well, I think it doesn't matter who is actually really being the instrument. Yeah. So any more reflections on this prayer? Okay, so in that case, let's move on to the next one. I think it's January 7th, this one. Yeah, so Jishnuji, maybe this time you can start with this one and share your reflections. It's okay with you.
It's okay. Give them, O Lord, thy peace and light. Open their blinded eyes and their darkened understanding. Calm their futile worries and their vain anxieties. turn their gaze away from themselves, and give them the joy of being consecrated to thy work without calculation or mental reservation. Let thy beauty flower in all things, awaken thy love in all hearts, so that thy eternally progressive order may be realized upon earth, and thy harmony be spread until the day all becomes thyself, in perfect purity and peace. Oh, let all tears be wiped away, all suffering relieved, all anguish dispelled, and let calm serenity dwell in every heart, and powerful certitude strengthen every mind. Let thy life flow through all like a regenerating stream, that all may turn to thee and draw from that contemplation the energy for all victories. So when I first time read this, I like I would say the appropriateness of the words that mother used. Then when she when she expressed the futile worries and vain anxieties, it is so beautiful and apt because most of our worries are futile and most of our anxieties are vain. And I think I remember somewhere mother has written, I am paraphrasing, she has written that don't worry. Most of the time, what we worry about does not happen. So when I read this sentence, I felt that how appropriately she has said. But of course, she has given a beautiful secret here. Turn their gaze away from themselves and give them the joy of being consecrated to thy work without calculation or mental reservation. And why it is so is the secret lies. The moment we are concentrated on ourselves, we are unhappy. If we see people who are most unhappy, they are primarily, of course, there are philosophers who are unhappy because of the condition of the world. They are saddened. I won't say unhappy, but the primary unhappiness happens because we concentrate our gaze on ourselves. Like Gandhi said, when you feel that you are unhappy, you think of the most miserable person you have thought about, and you will see that you are better than them. So many times nowadays we hear that to be awake, and in current situation of the world, to be awake on every morning itself is a gift, and we should be grateful about. We don't think like that because we are putting our gaze. We are so concentrated on ourselves. We don't think that how fortunate we are and how we can forget about ourselves if we give ourselves without calculation and without any mental reservation. And it is not only, I'm sure people who are given, mother has said, not only to the divine work, but people who give themselves to any high ideal, not personal ideal, any higher ideal, they will be happy. Especially who tries or aspires to give themselves without calculation, that is without any return. The moment, it's like Gita, the moment you stop considering something in exchange, you become happy. If you think that I want to do something and something you will get in return, which may make you happy, and most of the cases you will not, which will often make you unhappy. But the moment you say, okay, I just do this without any expectation of return, though it is difficult, but if we can do, the first thing what happens is we become light. We do not have any unhappiness. And the second thing is mental reservation. The reservations are like the mind or mental structures which are creating limitations in us. Oh, we cannot do this. I am somebody, I cannot do that. I will not be able to do that. But the moment we think beyond mental reservations and try to offer ourselves to a bigger cause, we come out of those mental structures and we become our largest self. Let thy beauty flower in all things, awaken thy love in all hearts, so that thy eternally progressive order may be realized upon earth, and thy harmony be spread until the day all becomes thyself, in perfect purity and peace. So eternally progressive order. I mean, however, we may complain about the conditions of the world, but if we study the history, we should know that the earth has progressed. The conditions of the living beings have improved. And with all the knowledge that we have gained, with the nature cooperating with us, with we gaining knowledge scientifically over diseases, illnesses, and this is the mark of the progressive order. That is, we are more and more, even though slowly, we are moving towards a more harmonious, progressive world, which has already happened. It is accelerating right now, I would say, but it is happening. And thy harmony be spread until the day becomes thyself. That is when everything becomes pure and peaceful, and the divine is manifested in entirety. Oh, let all tears be wiped away, all suffering relieved, all anguish dispelled, and the calm serenity dwell in every heart, and powerful certitude strengthen every mind. Because it's poetically very beautiful that let all tears be wiped away, let all suffering be relieved, anguish dispelled, and let there be, when there is calmness in the heart, we feel peaceful, we feel stable, and most important, there should be hope. Unless we have no hope, we have no life. We get no joy. So let there be powerful certitude strengthen every mind. That hope gives us strength. That is that powerful certitude strengthen every mind. Let thy life flow through all like a regenerating stream, that all may turn to thee and draw from that contemplation the energy for all victories. So let the divine presence be in every heart, and let us all meditate or contemplate as we do, or we stand in front of the samadhi and we get the energy. So let us all get this higher energy which is within us. Let us contemplate on that, be centered around that, and get the energy for the future, get energized for the future from there. This would be my reflections on this.
Thank you so much, Jishnuji. Very beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Rashmiji, you want to share next?
Dr. Monica, Jishnuji has wonderfully put forth his reflections. I was just completely engrossed in that. So I really don't have any word to say.
Okay, sure.
He explained so beautifully,
Yes.
so beautifully. Yeah.
So in case you have any further reflection, please come up anytime.
Yeah, one thing is just, he explained it in every detail, and what really, every word is appealing to me, and so poetically written, as he rightly said. One thing that really comes to my mind is, the secret, the key that Mother has given. I have to just consecrate myself without any calculation, without any mental reservation, because my mind, it comes in between whatever I do, and really spoils, because it is not really reformed. So without any mental calculation, mental reservation, I must consecrate myself all the time. Then all these, my blindness will go, my understanding will be, there'll be light in my understanding, my worries will be gone, and my anxieties will be dispelled. So that point I have to just stick to, and everything will come. That is what I see.
Yeah, very powerful. Yes, absolutely. I think we have to just constantly keep reminding ourselves to that key that you are sharing.
Yes.
Yeah, because we forget.
We forget.
Yeah.
We forget. That is why all the worries are there, all the suffering, all anguish.
It comes back again and again.
Yes, it comes back again.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
and that progressive order that has to come within first.
Yes.
So that will come only when we really consecrate ourselves completely. And maybe our life's agenda is to go to that point where our consecration is complete. Till then, the struggle continues.
Beautiful.
All these mix-up happens.
Beautiful.
Till that consecration is complete. Because unless and until it is complete, we get things mixed up, all the things.
Yeah, so any mixture comes up and it just tells me that my consecration is not complete.
That is as simple as that. As simple. All pain, all suffering, all darkness, everything comes because things get mixed up, and I clearly see that yes, my surrender is not complete. My consecration is not complete. So I feel the affirmation that comes out of it is, I live for thee every moment of my journey, entirely consecrated to thee. So this is the affirmation I really.
I think at one moment, Mother also at one place shares that any day you will see that some days you are happy and other days you are unhappy. And if those days when you are unhappy, just tell yourself that you are not sincere.
Yes.
That's
yes.
it. That's
yes,
it.
yes, yes, yes.
We have given ourselves to some other demand, some expectation, and insincerity creeps in. Yeah.
I am surrendered to some other thing, actually, except the divine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Beautiful. Great. Thank you so much, Rashmiji. Yes, Jishnuji, please.
Luba is here. Good evening.
Yeah, yes, Luba, please go ahead.
Yeah, it's very beautiful reflections everybody shared. And from my side, I want to add something which I have read today on letters on the mother. It is letters on yoga on the mother. So there one disciple is asking, and I was thinking it's very apt to read it because it is he's mentioning prayers and meditations. So the question was, disciple asked Sri Aurobindo, there are many who hold the view that she was human, but now embodies the Divine Mother, and her prayers and meditation, they say, explain this view. But to my mental conception, to my psychic feeling, she is the Divine Mother who has consented to put on her the cloak of obscurity and suffering and ignorance so that she can effectively lead us, human beings, to knowledge and bliss and ananda and to the Supreme Lord. The answer of Sri Aurobindo. The divine puts on an appearance of humanity, assumes the outward human nature in order to tread the path and show it to human beings, but does not cease to be the divine. It is a manifestation that takes place, a manifestation of a governing divine consciousness, not human turning into divine. The mother was inwardly above the human even in childhood. So the view held by many is errors. Another question. I also conceive that the mother's prayers are meant to show us, the aspiring psychic, how to pray to the divine. Sri Aurobindo's answer, yes. So it was very beautiful that I came across today. We were reading, and this was mentioning prayers, and how Sri Aurobindo is saying that how divine has to put on human appearance, assume that outward human nature, and where mother is writing that she was having no thoughts, that dullness and all that. I was thinking that when she puts on that human appearance and human cloak, so that's divine even going through experience of being human. But Sri Aurobindo is saying that she is never fully human. I mean, she was divine even in childhood, above all this. So I wanted to share this because I have read and it was mentioning prayers. So And also it's very beautiful that disciple feels that it's showing to aspiring psychic being how to pray to the divine, mother's prayers and meditations. I thought it is very beautiful how that disciple felt, and Sharbinda confirmed it. So that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, beautiful sharing. Yeah, thank you, Luba. If you have anything on the prayer, Luba, please share in case you have any reflection on the prayer. It's really beautiful. I think when you were sharing, it reminded me of, imagine that a human being has to act like an animal for a day. And it will be so difficult for us, although I'm just talking of a very lateral and very limited thing. But what you were sharing, the divine mother herself becoming human, I think she has to go through such obscurity, as you were sharing, all this touching upon the human dullness, and although she's not fully there yet. Yeah.
Yes, very much. She must be, if you feel like you're somebody put you in animal body and you have to act and do things, probably what divine feels when he assumes the human body and human this all nature.
Absolutely. Very suffocating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so let's go over it again and see if anything else comes up. I think already beautiful sharings have been there, but since I'm in this habit of going over it again, so let's just walk it over again. January 7, 1914. Give them all, O Lord, thy peace and thy light. Open their blinded eyes. I think when I was reading this prayer, it came to me that as if I'm talking about my own self, because Mother is talking about people, and we are those people. So as if it is directed towards me personally, that give me, O Lord, your peace, or give all of us, all the humanity, all the creatures, inhabitants, give them all, O Lord, thy peace and light. Now it's really amazing, this life force that is there in us, this vitality that is there in us, which goes out again and again in some other expectation, some desire, some ambition, some, I don't know, many formations. I think I was just reflecting over it, and it appears to me again and again that no mental resolution works really for a larger time. And it's amazing to see the power of calling peace and light in the body. Whenever we are suffering with emotional turmoil, maybe mental conflict, also physical disturbances. I think this mantra, if I can say, Mother Sri Aurobindo have given us, to call peace and stillness in the body. And she talks about, at one place she talks about marble, that how marble is a very concentrated force, what it metaphorically represents. Marble represents a concentrated force. And I was just calling peace for my own self, and I just usually I remember Mother or call peace, but this time I just remembered, Sri Aurobindo's whole figure. He's sitting on his like a marble statue, he sits on his sofa. And I just remembered him, and also remembered somehow it connected Mother's talk about the marble and Sri Aurobindo's figure. And it was amazing to see how just so much of stillness and peace. And Alokda shares that it comes like a block, like a solid block of ice comes to you, in form of peace. And it was very interesting experience for me how that works, because usually how we are trying to resolve our emotional, mental, physical conflicts is by thinking, by trying to do something about it. I think if we really want to do something about it, and we are feeling really helpless, or even before feeling helpless, if we can actually make this work for ourselves, calling peace and light in our body, in our mind, in our emotions, things really take a different turn, absolutely, without even having resolutions in the external world. Now the being becomes very peaceful. Although you may be undergoing a turmoil or a disturbance in an external situation with a person or relationship or anything, but internally everything suddenly becomes quiet, as if your quietness or peace is not dependent on that situation. So that was really very powerful, this experience of peace and light. Open their blinded eyes. And whenever we have this experience of peace and light, something opens up. That blindness of the ego, blindness of ignorance and half-lit mind, it kind of drops for a while. Open their blinded eyes and their darkened understanding. Again and again, disciples and Mother Sri Aurobindo themselves share that mind or the understanding that we have is a very half-lit, precarious understanding. We cannot kind of really take a backing from what the mind is understanding, although it is helpful from time to time, but it's only half-lit ignorance. It's not really full knowledge, darkened understanding. Calm their futile worries and their vain anxieties. I think Jishnuji was touching upon this. He used this sentence that Mother shares, that don't really worry that much, because most of the time what you're worrying does not really happen. I think that really was very, very relaxing to hear, how the mind just keeps on forming these negative loop of thoughts, creates such big imaginations, and we drown ourselves in worries, and most of the time it does not even happen. It's really strange where all we can go with the mind. There are also higher possibilities of the mind, but I think mostly we are in the ordinary level, we are indulging in the lower quality of the mind. Turn their gaze away from themselves and give them the joy of being consecrated to thy work. I think Jishnuji again reflected upon it beautifully, that whenever we concentrate the gaze on our own being, on our own self, we fall into this trap of ego consciousness, become self-obsessed. Now, there are two qualities of concentrating our gaze on ourselves. One is to look at, always be caring about what are my demands, what are my expectations, let me go and fulfill them. One is this, focusing on the ego consciousness. And the other way is what Mother suggests, Mother says that look at your inner movements. Now that is also concentrating my gaze on myself, but it's in a higher way, it's in a subtle way. So if there is a desire, now I am not running after fulfillment of desire, I am looking at the desire, the movement of desire, trying to understand what it makes me do. Now that is also concentrating the gaze on myself. But what is here reflected, what Jishnuji was sharing, that we are obsessed by our own little complications. All the time thinking about me and myself. Okay, what is there for me to gain? Okay, this is where I lose something. This is where I gain something. So can we just remove all this excessive focus on our little needs of life? And how can we do that? It's not possible to just do it like that, okay, today I will not think about myself. That's not going to happen. We give ourselves something higher. I think Jishnuji again shared that can we offer ourselves to something really greater than us, really very powerful, vast, that we lose ourselves in that vastness. And one thing which we can lose ourselves in is Mother and Sri Aurobindo. When we read their works, when we read their, I think, oceans of stuff they have left for all of us, mankind. And it's very, very beautiful. If we really want to lose ourselves, can we lose ourselves in that understanding that they have given us? I think the more we go into their words, the more we realize that really we don't know anything, and there is so much which is to be understood, which is to be traveled and known. So that's one place where we can lose our littleness. Just like I give this example, that imagine that two people are fighting over their relationship issue, and suddenly there is a fire in the room. Now that fire is much bigger than their little discussion or argument. And for that instant, for that one moment, they will forget the worries or the arguments they may be having, and they will rush out helping each other for their life, because it's something bigger than what they were discussing. So although that's another thing, that once they are well again, that argument may arise up again. That's what happens with us. The moment things are okay, we are again back in the ego, arguments and little trivialities. But yeah, that's how we are. I think in gradations we go forward. And one of the ways is to give ourselves to satsangat, to good company, and to something which is more higher than our littleness, so that we lose ourselves in that little, that vastness, that wideness. And it also purifies us in the process. Somehow these words and these thoughts have an action of purification. The more we imagine that our mood is not okay, we read a few pages of Savitri or few lines even, and then suddenly the mood just takes a different turn. Something changes in the being. So they also purify, they make the shadow disappear, and they make what is really real more prominent, our higher possibility more prominent. So turn their gaze away from themselves and give them the joy of being consecrated. I think Rashmiji very beautifully talked about the consecration part, that the only task that we have to do is to again and again consecrate, and to a greater degree, just go on doing that, because we forget. We live in amnesia, we fall in amnesia again and again. To thy work without calculation or any mental reservation. Let thy beauty flower in all things. Awaken thy love in all hearts. I think this is what we need in the world most. Love is what we need the most. Opening to beauty and opening to love. Awaken thy love in all hearts, so that thy eternally progressive order may be realized upon earth. I think this progression is something which is so intimately one with the divinity. That whenever we are progressing, we have also joy in life, inner joy. And Mother also connects divinity or with perfection. And perfection is an ever progressing thing. You can never ever, the way we are right now, we can never say that now I have become perfect. The more you go, the more you realize that, oh my God, there is so much to go forward to. So this progressive order may be realized, which moves us from inertia. This progressive order moves us from our comfort zones. So we have this tendency of settling down in our comfort zones, this little walled kind of a life. Again and again, we fall back into that inertia of comfort zone. And in spirituality also, again and again, we may just fall into this space that, okay, now I am okay. Now I don't want to just go forward anymore. It feels comfortable here. But that's owing to the inertia only. And we have to, I think, if we really want to progress, we have to challenge our comfort zones again and again, so that there is no inertia settling down there. Progressive order may be realized upon earth, and thy harmony be spread until the day all becomes thyself in perfect purity and peace. I think it's at one moment, it seems that it is far, far away if we look at it collectively, even individually, we look at it, that everything becomes thyself in perfect purity and peace. On the other hand, if we look at any one single moment, there are moments where we touch this purity and peace and harmony in our being. And then we may again lose it owing to the ignorance, but there are moments where we are there. So it's not that we don't know. We all have tasted these moments of perfect harmony, beauty, and love and purity. Oh, let all tears be wiped away, all suffering relieved, all anguish dispelled, and let calm serenity dwell in every heart. So once you touch that serenity and beauty, even for a moment in your own being, and also you have suffered enough, it's not that you have not touched suffering. I think there kind of a yearning or a prayer goes out, to the divine, that please bring, may all of this living beings be full of this peace and harmony that I have been able to touch in this one moment, although I have been suffering in the other also. So it is possible for us to have that purity, peace, and anguish, relief from anguish. Let calm serenity, a serenity which is calm, sweetness, sweet nectar of the divine in all hearts, dwell in every heart. Powerful certitude, strengthen every mind. Many a times, I think Jishnuji was relating to it. Many a times we become hopeless, that, oh my God, there is no hope left for me. And mother has again and again warned against this hopelessness, that whenever you make mistake, just notice the mistake and make the necessary progress. There is no point dwelling upon it. In one of the prayers also, I think mother shares that if I do any action which is not consecrated to thee, for a moment I am sad, I deplore myself, I blame myself, but then suddenly I take refuge in thy peace, thy silence, thy depths, and things are okay again. So mother shares that these mistakes will happen. It's not that the journey is over very soon. The journey is very long and arduous. So can we allow the mistakes, whenever they happen, because the universe has said yes to them? Somewhere I needed that mistake to happen so that something of darkness can be revealed to me. My own weakness can be revealed to me. And then make the necessary progress with the help of mother's grace. So there's this certitude that develops in the being, that yes, weakness is there, but mother's grace is also there at every moment. So nothing can stop if mother's grace is there. Powerful certitude, strengthen every mind. Let thy life flow through all like a regenerating stream, a stream from where all becomes refreshed. Whenever we are tired, we wash hands in a flowing stream and maybe wash our face and drink some water, refreshing, especially when you are really, really suffering and thirsty, for that. So mother is praying that let your life flow through all like this regenerating, refreshing stream, that all may turn to thee and draw from that contemplation the energy for all victories. So there is in us, with all our weakness and obscurities, there is in us this divinity also, where we have to plunge in from time to time, if possible, live all the moments there, if not all the moments, at least begin to live, in bits and pieces, in that depth, in that touching that divinity, the sweet nectar, so that whenever a challenge comes up, I also have the courage, the strength, and necessary, will to go over that challenge and to transform it, just like something into a ladder, taking me forward and forward. So I think this is very, very powerful, that we have the power, we have the ability to touch this regenerating stream, which owing to Mother and Sri Aurobindo is right here, not far away. We are not calling divine from some far stretches. Divine is right here. I think that makes it really, really simpler, that all that we have to do is take refuge in the Mother and nothing else, again and again, again and again. Yeah. So if there is anything more, please share.
So only one thing, Monica ji, to add, as Rashmi ji said about that our surrender or our consecration is not complete. Now, naturally, at our level, it will never be complete. I mean, it will be complete in a very, very long period of time, let's say. And that's because Mother has said somewhere, it's because we are made of different parts. There are higher parts in us and there are lower parts in us. The higher parts are convinced and they understand what is right, what is the right thing to do, which takes all the good aspirations, which take all the good resolutions, these are the things which are under the influence of the psychic, not directly psychic, but under the influence of the psychic and governed or guided by them. Similarly, there are parts within us which are guided by desire or vital attractions, and they do not listen to the higher parts. As we work on ourselves more and more, which is also a progressive order in ourselves, which we achieve. So Mother has used a very beautiful term. She said, harmonize your being. So in modern Jungian psychology, I read that they say integrate your being. But Mother has I think Mother said it's more beautifully that harmonize different parts of your being, which is establish a progressive order. Once we harmonize our different parts of the being, what happens is everybody aspires and contributes towards the same goal. Right now, specifically for me, one part is aspiring for something higher. There are 5 more parts which are running after 10 more directions. That causes distraction, that causes wastage of time, wastage of life, as well as diffusion of life. Whereas if all the parts were harmonized, which we normally do by working on ourselves more and more, and everything brought under the unified influence of the psychic, then at least our surrender, our consecration, we all work towards the same goal. That would be my addition.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Jishnuji. Very beautiful. This reminds me, this harmony that you were referring to, the harmonizing of all the parts in the being. I think this reminds me of Dr. Ramesh Bijlani's his book on integral education, where he shares this picture where there is in the center the psychic being, and around that the harmony of mind, vital and physical, which is I think it's the core of integral education, where around the psychic being, which is the higher light in us, which is active in us, especially in little children, it's active, the higher light. So can we do activities, can we inculcate practices in our education, which allows the nurture of this higher light, the light of the psychic, the discrimination of the psychic, and around that, the mind, the vital and the physical, as you were sharing, the harmony is created, that the goal is one, the goal is this, the center, the core is the psychic being, and around that, this harmony takes place. So that just your sharing reminded me of that picture. Yeah. Great. And in little children, I think those of us who work with little children, especially with the vision of Mother in Sri Aurobindo, they also use this sense of unease. Mother also has shared about it, that be sensitive about this sense of unease, because whenever anything is done which is not in alignment with the truth, you feel this sense of unease, that something is not okay, and pay attention to that sense of unease. Do not go like in adverse direction where you are feeling uneasy and yet doing the stuff. So just pay attention to that sense of unease. In little children, I think that's one thing that they try to follow. Yeah, so anything more? Anyone?
Yeah, nothing more from my side.
Okay, Jishnu. Great. So I think then we can end it here. And it's really amazing, this journey, ever progressive, and on one hand, at times one may feel frustrated, that, oh my God, I'm here again. But on the other hand, we also see that these little movements within us, they show so much to us, show to our own self, they show our obscurities, our blindnesses, that how we can be really, really blind to our own movements. And then we can, at times we claim that I know the other person, when I don't even know myself, how can I know the other person? It's really amusing at times, this divine comedy. Yeah. Great. I think, thank you then for sharing the reflections and insights. We can end
Thank
it
you,
here.
Dr. Monica and Jishnuji. Wonderful.
Thank
Wonderful
you.
session today.
Thank you, Luba. Thank you, Jishnuji. Thank you, Rashmiji. Bye-bye.